You are listening to the CADDle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentac Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The CADDle Call podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the CADDle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentac Consultants. I am Jim, your resident technology dork, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
Just Rocco. He doesn't do anything, so he doesn't get an additional title. He's just Rocco.
Exactly.
There you go. He's living the life over there.
So what's the difference between a technology dork and a regular dork?
Regular dorks deal with things like D&D and swords, right? And technology guys, we deal with computers and games and things like that. Now, I happen to be both. I do both. I'm a dork on every possible level, so there's only so much you can do with me, I'm afraid.
So you deal with swords?
I love swords and fantasy. I'm a fantasy author. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I do all of them dorky things, man. How do you not love that? You don't watch The Witcher and play the video game for like Elder Scrolls? I love that stuff. I'm
just envisioning you with a sword, and that's just scary.
I had one for years. I had a nice big, katana that I used to have, run around. I'm not a LARPer. I don't do that. Though I thought about it. But in the end, my wife was like, dude, if you ever want to have sex, you're not doing that. I was like, all right, fine. So, you gotta limit how much dorkness you get involved in if you want to have women in your life. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. So, goodness. That's not what we came here to talk about. No, that's funny though. So what did we want to talk about? Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about technical support for your staff today. So before we do talk about technical support, I need to define what I mean by those actual words, right? When I say technical support, and I want to define it because it gets confused a lot of the time with software support. And those are not, and they never have been, the same thing. Software support is what you get from your software developer in case something goes wrong, with the software itself, right? If you can't install the program, or it's constantly crashing, or, it sets fire to your monitor, little things like that. Those are software support issues. Technical support is an entirely different beast. And let me guarantee you this, folks. There is no software developer that provides technical support for their software, no matter what terminology their salespeople might use. Technical support is what you need when you're having issues with the process of a system. In other words, right, when you need to know the how of doing something, right? So think of it like this, right? If your CAD system doesn't work, just not running, that's software support, right? But if the software works fine, but you just have no clue how do you even begin designing, a 3D corridor model, that's technical support. And technical support is what I want to focus on today, right? And it's really, I think, the most vital thing that you can provide to your staff, because it's what you need where the rubber meets the road, right? It's efficiency, time, money, and productivity. All those things die when your staff has nobody to turn to for technical support at the exact moment they need it, right? So think about this, right? How many times have you guys listened and seen your job, right? Whether it's a design project or a construction project, doesn't matter. How many times have you seen it delayed for days, even weeks, right? Because you're stuck trying to work out a tech process or figure out why the process is giving you obviously bad results, right? And this is something that all of us face, right? And getting you and your staff that type of support to help alleviate those problems is what I want to focus on today. All right, so Rocco, in terms of software versus technical support, do you find that most people you talk with kind of understand the difference between the two, or do a lot of people assume that they're kind of the same thing?
Yeah, they just lump it all together. I mean, you buy the software, you think you're going to get people to help you. I mean, I think at some level people understand that they need training, and that's separate. but there's not a clear definition.
Yeah. Now I find that a lot too. Most everybody, kind of like I said. That's why I say, the sales folks sometimes kind of blur that intentionally, thinking, oh, well, we'll be there, we'll help, because they're salespeople. That's what they do. No assault, no insults meant, Rocco. Don't get upset. So, yeah, he's gonna remember that for later. So you see, that's why he came at me with the Dork comments, because he knew that I was going to browbeat on the salespeople a little bit today. So, all right. So look, folks, there are really kind of two sources, I guess, that most of us can use for technical support. There are resellers and there are technical consultants. And the first thing I want to stress here is that the technical support is almost never included as part of the software purchase. Like Rocco was saying, it's a common misconception that, because you bought software from, reseller A, right, that they're going to help you out on these technical problems when you run into them. And sometimes they will, right? But usually only if you've purchased enough software from them to make it worth their while. And look, if you buy, 500 seats of a project management system, right, from the salesperson, right, it's worth enough money to cover the cost, to have one of their tech guys talk to you for an hour or two, right? But if, like most of us, right, you work for a small or a medium-sized business and you're buying a handful of seats from, any given software, you're kind of out of luck with the resellers, right? I mean, look, even if you do work for a large firm and you bought just a ton of software from the reseller, the tech support they're going to give you is going to be really limited, because every minute that they are working with you, it's cutting into their profit margin, right? So they're likely giving you very quick and dirty answers just to, so they can say, hey, yeah, we helped. And then they get you off the line as quickly as they can. This concept of, free technical support from your reseller, in reality, it's just not a feasible option to count on. The other venue for your technical support is from a technical consultant. And these guys are specialists, right? With advanced knowledge of, your software, your industry, or a specific design process that, you're going to hire on an as needed basis to help your staff when they run into trouble. And in my mind, right, tech consultants are always your best route because they really are specialists, right? They know what they're doing. Whereas, the people working for resellers, right, even if you can get, some tech support from them, those people tend to know the software really well, but they're not always the best people to go to for, the practical application of that software, right? The truth is, right, reseller margins for sales, they're just too tight to really, for these companies to afford to hire people who have decades of experience. So they tend to bring on, younger folks who have, 1 or 2 years experience in design or construction. And then they spend a lot of time teaching them the software. And that's not a bad thing, but they're really not going to be all that much help if your staff's issue is design or industry, process based. So, all right. So Rocco, here at Zentec, right, we actually fall in both categories. We're both a reseller and a technical consultant. Where do we engage more with clients who are looking for technical help, right? I mean, are they calling us more as paid consultants? Or are they just kind of calling, hoping, we'll help them out because they bought the software from us?
I mean, it's a combination of the two, but from a services standpoint, it's more as a paid technical consultant. I mean, they understand they need help. They understand that we help people with workflow improvements and the how-to. So that's what we see more. I mean, are there people that come to us from the technical support standpoint, again, of the misconception? Sure, there are, but that's not how we position ourselves.
Yeah, we try real hard to make it clear to folks up front, that our primary business is as technical consultants. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve on that, and that people at least expect that from us because we're real straight about it up in the beginning. I think in general that the word consultant, it scares people. Right? They hear consultant and they're envisioning, dozens of guys in suits crawling all over their company and changing things at random and costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is not the type of consulting we're talking about here, right? Technical consultants are specialists, right, with a detailed background in a given industry, right? And they focus on, helping you, set up standards and, like Rocco said, optimize your workflows, right? And address issues and questions and problems at the exact moment that you need them to. And these folks are going to know your software inside and out, but more importantly, they understand the final output that you're trying to achieve, and they can help you avoid common mistakes and oversights, right? They can come back to bite you later on in the job. And yeah, you absolutely have to pay for this type of consulting. That specialized knowledge, this is what consultants are selling, right? It's how they eat. And if you guys have ever seen me, I'm a pudgy bastard and I eat a lot. So we have to charge. The good thing though is that, a consultant's help has a direct and immediate return on investment. Usually you're engaging with them to help with a specific issue, right? That's either holding up your project or something that, you see as a recurring delay on all your jobs, right? If this problem comes up every project we do. And either way, resolving these problems instantly makes you money by getting your job or your jobs, up and moving the way that you need them to. In most cases, just the fact that that job is moving forward again, it usually pays you way more money than the consulting fee you're paying out for that guy. Right? It's an immediate increase in profits just by getting that technical consultant involved. I think the other part of this equation that you have to consider is timing. Resellers, right? Because they're not actually being paid usually for technical support. They tend to be slow in responding, right? And they have other issues that take precedence for them, right? Whereas, a paid consultant, right, he makes his money by providing you with, immediate, reliable service. If he can't get you answers quickly and correctly, right, you're just not going to keep working with him. It's kind of, it's the free market at work. Either you're going to do a good job for your client here or you're just going to be done. And the resellers, I think, are far more interested in selling seats of software than they are in helping you. And the truth of the matter is, you've already paid for the software, right? So they have no real incentive to help you solve whatever issue you're having. And I think that is particularly true if you're caught in that, software as a service, monopoly of, yearly subscriptions. In that case, right, resellers and developers, the software developers in that model, they don't even have to pretend to care about your business or your problems because you have to just keep paying them year over year, or they're just going to turn off your access to the software. Isn't that just a lovely position to be caught in as trying to work? But I tell you what, right? Before I begin ranting about evil corporate monopolies and once more and frustrate Rocco, why don't we just take a break here? Let me take a breath so I don't get angry, and then we'll take a listen to today's sponsor. And when we get back, I want to get into the different ways that you can engage technical support for your staff. All right, so stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the CADDle Call podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is Jim and Rocco with Zentac Consultants, and we wanted to talk to you today about Bluebeam Review, the premier quantity takeoff estimating and markup software for PDF out there on the market today. And at Zentac, we are a premier Bluebeam partner here in the U.S. We're here to help you guys with all your Bluebeam needs, from software sales to training, consulting, configuration, and everything in between in all things Bluebeam, from the standard version to the extreme version and anything else you might need. So, in terms of Bluebeam, Rocco, how do people reach out to us if they want to start that conversation?
Yeah, just hit up our website, give us a ring, or send us an email, or through osmosis. That works too.
Osmosis is good.
Yeah, zentacconsultants.net or sales@zentacconsultants.net, or give us a ring, 866-824-4459.
All right, Zentac Consultants, your home for all of your Bluebeam software needs.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the CADDle Call podcast, where we're talking about technical support today. And for the second half of today's show, I want to get into the different ways that you can engage with technical consultants and resellers to get your people the help they need at the exact moment they need it. And there are a couple of ways to do this, and some I like better than others, but they're all worth considering for your company. Look, I'll be fair and say, and I think you guys got this in the first half, that I prefer working with technical consultants myself. So for this conversation, I'm kind of going to relegate the reseller channel to the second chair here. Even if that annoys Rocco, who has worked in that reseller channel for decades now, because, he's really, really old, folks. Don't tell him I said so. But, like I was saying earlier in the show, even when resellers are getting paid to help you, you're never going to be their top priority. And their staff, I find, is usually less experienced than I am. So I always worry about the level of support that they can offer me. So, the first concept I want to address here is the idea of paying for technical support, through a consultant on an hourly basis. Right? And this model, I think, really tends to scare companies a lot. They don't like the idea of being hit with unexpected charges out of the blue. Right? Their thought is that, Joe Worker is going to call tech support and tell them to fix a problem, not realizing that's going to take 100 hours to do. And now they're going to get a bill for, several grand, and that's, going to freak out the owner who didn't have that in his budget, right? And I certainly understand that concern, particularly as a business owner, right? Nobody likes, the quote unquote open checkbook model of consulting. You're looking to keep, a firm control over what you're paying out, or at the very least know that, the person approving the work, in your company, or, contacting the consultant, understands what the impact of that engagement is going to do to the business, right? And kind of to help control that, what I've seen a lot of companies do is go the route of limiting who can call the consultant for help. They give the consultant a list of approved names, and these are the only people who are authorized to work with you. And I see the logic there, I do, but I also think it's a self-defeating process. Invariably, the people who can authorize the technical support are usually your best and busiest workers. And they get tired of playing gatekeeper, right? And spending all of their time dealing with other people's issues, right? So they're usually the first people who are going to suggest just dropping the support. We don't need it, just to get it off their back, right? Which leaves you back where you started with nobody to help. And them acting as gatekeepers, right? When you have that gatekeeper person, it also means that there is a longer delay in getting your end user help. The person who has a problem now has to contact that, gatekeeper, the person you put in charge. They have to explain your email it to them, phone call it, wait for them to get out of a meeting and get back to them and approve it, right? And then the contact support has to be called, and and then when you get the technical guy in, you got to go through that explanation and show them all again, right? So you're kind of doubling the lead time there, and I think that the idea of getting immediate help for your people when they need it, right, just kind of gets lost in the bureaucracy there. So, Rocco, over your years, how have you seen companies respond to the idea of hourly contract options, right? Both as like a short term, I have one immediate problem, and more of a long-term support issue when we're going to need support unexpectedly down the road.
It's at some level, it's a common sense response because, naturally larger companies have bigger budgets and they're more open to that kind of structure, whereas smaller firms, they try to squeeze whatever they can and limit what they spend. And, I guess in some ways, a lot of times smaller firms expect more too, so it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah. Okay. So the next option that's available for tech support, really, it's relatively new, right? It's come out over the last probably decade at max. It's called managed services, right? And the managed services option, excuse me, it comes with a lot of benefits. It does, but it is without a doubt, the most expensive process over the long haul. The idea of a managed service contract is that you're paying a recurring fee, whether it's monthly or annually. It depends on the consultant. but you're paying them for the tech support that you need, right? Whether it's setting up standards or installing updates or working through project related issues, right? You're paying that consultant to be on call for you when any problems or issues that arise. And usually you're kind of engaging with them on a line item basis, right? Meaning that you buy each class of support separately. So, if you want them to handle doing all of your software updates and your patches, right? That's one fee, right? If you want CAD support, that's another fee. If you want, people to help you build templates and review your workflows, those are different fees, right? Each one is a different fee for different things that they will and won't support. And it's possible, it is, that you can deal with these companies to get an all-inclusive contract, right? We'll do any CAD issue that you have. But honestly, you really are looking at some prohibitive annual fees for that, like on the scale of like six figures if you want totally unlimited technical support for all your people and all your work processes. So you're thinking like, six figures to do that. And really at that point, it's probably worth it to kind of look at hiring your own full-time support people if you're that big and have that many issues. So managed services, I think, though, can be really, really beneficial, huge benefit with this process when you are able to identify specific areas of your business that need ongoing support. Look, if you don't have anybody in-house to handle things that happen on every job, they just have, you have to, every year we've got to update our software because we're on an SaaS model, right? Or, we have to build 3D corridors or Revit models, and our people just can't handle that. They're not skilled enough, but we got to do it on every job, right? That kind of a managed service can be a huge benefit, right? You have the extensive support and workers that you need. And I think that, the only real drawback that I see to the managed services is that you pay those fees whether your people actually need that help or not, and there are no refunds, right? So you're paying them if they get 30 calls a month or 0 calls a month. You're paying them the same fee. So it is a very convenient method, but it can get to be a little bit pricey that way. So Rocco, what's the kind of the view of managed services that you see in the design build world, right? Do people even really understand that this is available to them for things like CAD and construction project management support and so on?
I think the larger firms, again, buy into it more. They have the budget, they understand it, or they see a little bit more of the value. But a lot of firms question it. Do you really need? Do you really need it? Are you going to use it? How effective is it going to be? That's kind of what I generally see.
Yeah, I same thing, right? I see, going to the managed services, I see a lot of the bigger firms that we deal with will pull managed services contracts because, even like you said, maybe it's worth hiring somebody, but they also, in the larger firms, they look at, I can hire somebody to do this full time, but that means, health insurance and, 401ks and, paid time off and, all the additional benefits. I'm like, I'll just pay the 6-figure salary to the consultant, and then when I need them, and I don't have to pay any benefits. So,
and that way you have it all under your roof. You're controlling the situation versus, waiting for somebody to get back to you, and it just there's a benefit to that as well, to having somebody under your own roof.
Sure, yeah, and that they're working on your processes and your processes only in developing things to the to the needs of your specific firm. So. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely an option to just, hire in a good support guy as well. So, the last option that I want to talk about here today for technical support is actually my preferred method when I have to get technical support. And we actually use it a lot here at Zentac. And it's the concept of a prepaid support contract. And I think that this offers a nice compromise between the hourly rate and the managed service options. I think it's a nice mid-road for most folks to go with. So the idea is that, with a prepaid contract, technically you're still paying an hourly rate, right? But what you're doing is you're paying for a maximum amount of support time in advance, right? In other words, you can pay for a 40-hour block of time upfront based on an hourly rate, whatever it is, just 40 times whatever the consultant's hourly rate is. And then you can just let your staff connect with that tech consultant whenever they want, whoever wants, whenever they want, because you know they can't run over the budget or incur unexpected fees. You've already paid all of it. The money's already done. You paid the consultant. It's all set. And this way, anybody in the company can just reach out, right? And then we can just jump on and do a screen share and a Teams call or whatever, or a phone call or emails to get their problems fixed immediately, right? And the consultant is just going to give you a summary of, whatever hours they worked, who they worked with, what they did, and then, how many hours do you still have remaining on the contract, and I think that, the great thing here is that you can usually get a discount on the hourly rate based on how many hours you buy, right? The idea being there that the longer the contract, the lower the rate. One thing you will definitely want to be careful about here is to check the consultant's policy on contract expiration. Some consultants set a limit on how long the contracted hours are valid. And I have seen a lot of folks who limit it to 1 year, and any unused hours are lost at the end of the year, right? Meaning if you call them after, 1 year and 1 day, thinking, I still have 10 hours of support time, you're out of luck. Listen, and I am not a fan of that type of contract, though I do understand that the consultants see it as a way to make some good money, free money. Basically they're essentially betting that you're not going to use all of those support hours before your year is up, and that increases their profits. I get it, I do, but honestly, I suggest avoiding engaging with contracts like that, or at the least, if that's the kind of person you're working with, buy much smaller hour blocks so that you're going to use them. Try, don't run over. So, Rocco, we do a ton, like I said, of this type of work here at Zentac with what we call our tech blocks. And it's one of our fastest growing service offerings. So how do you find people responding when you first bring up, the tech block idea for support? And what is our renewal rate like for that, right? Do most people keep renewing those tech blocks as they get used up?
Yeah, folks definitely like the structure. I mean, we're not, we try not to oversell. And I think people understand that and they appreciate that. I mean, we'd rather sell a smaller block and make sure that customers are satisfied with the time that they spend with us and buy more than to overspend, overbuy, and have so many hours sitting there. So they definitely appreciate it. We work with a lot of smaller firms, and again, they have limited budgets, and so they like that structure. And the renewal rate, it's pretty high. I mean, it all depends on what a customer needs. And again, we're not going to sell you on something you're not going to need long term. So we definitely want repeat customers, but we don't want you having 50 hours just sitting there on account for when you might need it someday.
Yeah.
So.
And look, I think that's logical. I mean, I kind of like the way that we approach that. I think your point is a real valid, right? For us, it doesn't really make a difference, right? So if you just say, look, instead of a 100-hour block, I'm going to buy a 10-hour block. Okay, if you buy 10 10-hour blocks or 100-hour block, we're going to get the same amount of money. It doesn't matter to us. I think it's better and safer and a lot more comfortable for people to buy the shorter block, work through it, and see the value, right? Did this work for my company? Did my people get the help and the support that they wanted? And whether you do this with Zentac or somebody else, you need to look at it in that respect, right? Do the shorter block, check with your people. Now, that was really good. That helped a lot. I hope we can keep going with those guys. Then just renew another 10 and another 10 and another 10, right? Just keep it rolling. I think that's probably best for everybody involved. Doesn't hurt the consultant in any way, and it certainly, I think, is best for the end client. So look, folks, at the end of the day, whichever methodology here that you choose, the key is to make sure that you're working with a technical consultant that you know and trust to be an expert in your field, and with the software and the processes that you need. And you need to engage with someone can provide that help. And it's not always easy to find, those people, unless you're talking to Rocco and I here at Zentac, then of course, no brainer, right? We know everything. But one thing that I always suggest is, when you're looking at a potential consultant, to engage them to run a formal staff training, at least one, for you before you hire them on a regular basis, right? So I think training will give you a great sense of what their breadth of knowledge is, right? What's their personality like, and what's their real understanding of your industry in front of people who are having problems. Look, I'll say that almost every single long-term client that we have here at Zentac, they started out with us as a student in one of our classes. We do regular 8-hour online public classes on all the different types of technologies and industries that we support here. And I think that our clients get really comfortable with our staff and who we are and what we can and what we can't do, because we try to be honest about that. And I really do think, right, when you look into this kind of a setup, training should always be your first engagement point, because worst case scenario, right? If you hire them to train and that consultant kind of sucks at training, and you didn't get a lot out of it, at least you got something, right? At least your staff probably learned one or two things, and you got some value out of hiring that consultant for a class or two, right? So before you engage them long term in an actual consulting contract. So, all right. So that's my thought, my recommendations for you guys. So with that said, we will let everybody get back to your busy schedule. Say goodbye to the good people, Rocco.
Goodbye, good people.
And we'll catch you next time on the CADDle Call podcast.
All right, everybody. Today's CADDle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentac Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentac Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentac strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentac?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentacconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentacconsultants.net, or you can even call us, 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.